Joining us on the conversation today, this is going to be a good one. I already know that. He's not in the kitchen, but we do have Huck from Huck's Pop Culture Cafe. How's it going, sir?
Hey, hello everyone. Yeah, I'm not in the kitchen. There's no morning mug. We're just hanging out with KB. We're doing good, man. We're ready to go. Feeling good.
I do like the new introduction that shows off the new kitchen and everything. That was nice to see on your morning mug.
Yeah, if you
Nice
take a
job.
good look, if you come back every week, there's going to be something. I did a little Simpsons move where there's going to be something different in the next
Hmm.
one, but you got to see what that is, and I want to see the first person to catch it next week. So
Looking
yeah,
forward to it. Looking forward to it. So the way we do this is we start off with a non-movie question and then we get into the movie talk and it basically just flows from there. So feel free to jump in. You have questions or you want to vamp on something for a little while, we'll let it go.
sounds great. Let's go, man.
All right. So this is going to be an odd non-movie question, but just an observation on my part. Is yellow your favorite color?
Now, are you saying that because of all my logos and stuff?
The
Uh,
logos, the shirts and jerseys you wear a lot. I see a
yeah,
lot of yellow.
it's fun. I never thought about that. You'll also see a lot of blue. Technically, my two favorite colors are blue and purple. I love those a lot. Sometimes my purple stuff's a little too loud. Like I got ones like, when Johnny Depp was on, I have one that's called Half Pint, because they joked, or Mega Pint, when they
Hmm.
joked about the Mega Pint. So I got this loud purple shirt. But yellow is a good color for um, uh, advertisement because
True.
they've done this thing where they say orange and yellow really, like when if you're driving or you're walking by, you tend to see those colors first because they just pop out rather than like red or blue or green. They're so you see those all the time. So
Mhm.
it's probably an accident. You probably see, oh, I know you're thinking the trivia. I got the yellow shirt. Now that is strictly because the bowling shirt that I wear for trivia, it's called the Wesley Crushers, which is from the Big Bang
Nice.
Theory, and I just
Nice.
had to get that jersey. Like I want a new thing for trivia besides just the yellow jersey. So yeah, but that's
Shout
what.
out to Will Wheaton.
Yeah, thank you, Will.
um, I don't know. I don't know if it's spunk, enthusiasm, or just plain old razzmatazz, but where does your personality come from? It's fun, it's unique, it's upbeat, and it's definitely memorable. From the first time you encounter Huck or one of your videos, it's like, I'll remember that guy. Where does that come from?
That's I appreciate you saying that because I know some people it probably does not work for some people. Like I might be too much. But growing up, I've always just had like a lot of hyperactivity, a lot of energy. When I would go to a party, I remember specifically I was at a party one night. I had been sick, so I wasn't drinking at all night, but I'm me, right? So I do goofy stuff. I'm like, yeah, let's
Hmm.
dance. Oh, yeah, right. And so at the end of the night, the next day, they all gossip because it was a girls' party. So the girl's like, okay, let's talk. Okay, first of all, who was the most drunk? And right out of the gate, this girl goes, well, Huck was fried. And then my friend Rochelle, who knew I was not, she goes, oh no, that's just Huck. So
That's
she's
just
like,
how he
oh,
is.
okay. Yeah. And people would say, what are you on? I'm like, I'm on life. You should get some. It's really good.
Hmm.
So yeah, I've just sort of had this like high energy metabolism. I could like, sometimes my friends and my wife hates the fact that I can eat a little more than they can. And I don't necessarily, I don't know where that comes from. I do think as I'm getting older, that is not as good as it used to be, but
Yeah, it
yeah, so I
starts to
have a
slow
lot of
down.
things, yeah, going for me. So it just comes from like what's in here, I just try to keep it. That's just, it's funny. I sometimes I'll try to like take it down, and then I feel like, hey
Not
man,
being you.
like it's hard to just stay down because it's inherently not where I'm at. So I'm usually at here. So yeah.
You mentioned the bowling shirt that you wear on trivia night. I love to see the popularity of the trivia night just taking off. You give like major Monty Hall vibes for those of us who remember who that
I'll
is.
take that. I'll take that.
How
Yeah.
long does it take to put a show together like that? Because it is, to me, it is a show.
It is like a week. So when I start to, in fact, I mean, after this, I really need to start getting some yeses and lining a few people up. I want to do tournament of champions, as it were, right now. So we want to do like, some of the winners like yourself get together, battle that out. Some of the ones who didn't win, battle that out. And, I could try to do everyone, but that might be daunting because there's one winner per show. So that's 10 winners, but there's a lot more who didn't win. So I could be doing those shows for 3 months before I get everybody in. So maybe I'll just spin a wheel. I know people have a wheel they can spin and put names on it. So, I might try that. But so once I know who's in, I'll send a little thing out, maybe ask them what they're all into. Oddly enough, no one matches up. A lot of people are all into different things, or there'll be one thing that matches. So that's when I start preparing the show. And I'll try to get like those stills to maybe be an all horror. I know when I had Sue and the Steelbook crew on there, I went all like goofy, like creature features for their stills. So I try to do that. And then sometimes I just try to do something fun, like when I did all the vehicles from television. I knew that might have been more challenging for some people, but I know there's a lot of other people watching that like those things. So I'm trying to appeal not just to the players, but also to the viewers. So yeah, it can be a little daunting. I have to pull you in, man. Help me out.
Yeah, I'm definitely in, especially on the Tournament of Champions. You're another one who has a lot of different segments that you do with your videos and all that. Do you have a favorite? And besides the trivia night, which one is the longest to put together?
Yeah, I definitely would say trivia is my favorite, just because it brings it. Like, I like having people on. I guess the morning show is fun because it's interacting with people as far as those things go. But as far as the recording ones go, I've noticed like you have to sort of rock and roll a little bit with what you put out and see what people like. Last night I was on Fans of Something show, and people were saying that they liked my consolidation videos, which is how I started my channel, because that's the one thing I did not see anyone else doing. But it takes a little bit because you got to set up 2 cameras and you got to, cut. Of course, I cut the artwork, which freaks some people out. Like, oh, you're slicing the artwork. I'm like, yeah.
On a DVD,
or I'm just
more
gonna
likely you would have thrown it out.
Exactly. Or I'm just going to throw it out. So, and so I thought that was very unique, and some of them still get views today, like Masters of the Universe, Flash Gordon. But they, in general, didn't get a lot of views. I'm like, oh, people start liking this. And, maybe that's different now. I have more, subscribers and viewers. Maybe if I did some now, there would be more eyes on one. So I might try to do that again. Because that was fun. Because that was like my first thing out of the gate.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that later, but I'll bring it up now. Do you still do, even off camera, those customizations?
Yeah, I did one like literally this week. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna slice right into that. I think it was it wasn't Action Jackson. I forget which one it was, but yeah, I'm like, yeah, I need to slice this DVD up, get it out of here. And yeah, so now I feel kind of bad that I've done many off camera, and I'm like, should I have recorded that? I'm like, no one cares.
Yeah, I actually went back and watched a couple of them. They're pretty interesting because, like you said, no one else is doing those customizations and taking like the multi-disc cases and like consolidating them together. So it's pretty interesting. Let's go back, since you're talking about those early days. January 2021, the birth of Huck's Pop Culture Cafe.
There it is.
First video, Big Lots Hall, longer hair.
Yeah,
what do you remember about making that video?
Oh my God.
Or webisode, as you called it.
Yeah. Is that what I said in the beginning?
Yeah.
Episodes? The ebb and flow. It was look, so I just went down the rabbit hole. I have mentioned this before, but the ones that got me into this community was Cool Duder and Durant Cinema, and then I found Ken. So sort of like in that little nugget right there. And then I think I was also seeing like Serial at Midnight and movie films at home, guys like that. So I was connecting to those, and then I saw a lot of other people doing it. Kind of like I said, like some people get a little low energy, but some. So I just felt like, well, I feel like bringing my take to it, my energy and my style. So on all of that sort of influence, I went out and I did the first hunt, which was weird. I think when I did the first hunt, I didn't do any voiceover. I do all the voiceover with this afterwards. At least then. Now I do it in the store. Now I'm like, hey, what's going on? We're in Best Buy, So, I've gotten that Durant Cinema confidence, going, so I can do that. But yeah, then I would just do it afterwards, which actually had a benefit to it because you could get your dialogue perfect.
Yeah.
Like what you're looking at, what's going on, maybe do another take. That energy wasn't good. So yeah, so that's what I remember about putting that first one together. Yeah, I definitely had the longer hair, COVID kicked in. It was shaggy as all get out. And I remember when I hit my birthday, which was in April, that's when I cut my hair. And it was gone. I was like, it looked like this when I came in. So I went out to the Funko store with long hair. And then when you saw me revealing the Funkos, it was short. So, yeah.
Talking about that, in that first video, the shelves behind you were stacked with figures and Funko Pops. That's long been replaced by Blu-rays and 4Ks. So how much has the collection grown since you started this iteration of the channel?
Oh, it's grown like a lot because, when you start the channel, it urges you to do these things. And, the movies were still in there. I just put all those Funkos and figures in front of them because the problem I was having is my camera was focusing literally on the eyeballs of a Funko Pop. So I have two little Funkos right here, and I would see it pulsating like, focus. I'm like, what is going on? And it's like literally focusing on focus. So I'm like, once I realized what was happening, I just had to get rid of all the stuff off the shelf because all my figures have faces. So if you look right here, these Funkos, they're turned around in shame. They're
okay.
Backwards because if I turn them forwards, it'll start focusing on their face.
That's funny. That's sucks. A very sensitive camera.
Yeah.
So looking at those early videos, see that you started as an actor first?
Yeah. I moved out here, growing up, I was like, I always loved the stage and I would do plays as a kid and I love stand-up. In fact, in high school, I did probably a really bad stand-up routine, but I was the first student ever at that school to do a stand-up routine. And so I've heard since I've left, it's become like, there's at least one or two stand-up guys there now. I'm like, all right, I started something. I doubt my name is still up on a wall somewhere that says Huck was the guy. No one talks about that. But so I was doing some stand-up before coming out here. And then, when I came out, I went to the Comedy Store and I actually did a couple of performances up there. And it's a tough gig, boy. First time I did it, I didn't know what was happening. Like, they shine a light when it means get off the stage.
Ooh.
I didn't know what that was, right? So like I'm doing my routine, doing my bit, and I see the light go off. I'm like, is that asshole like flashing the light on? Like, that's all I can think. It's like, who is that? And then finally, like when I finished a joke, the MC had to come on stage and go, okay, and do one of those like get him off the stage moments. I'm like, and then because I was totally new, I literally came out and just did it, like not knowing. I didn't like view one first to see how it went. I just went, here, I'm going to the Comedy Store and sink or swim. So, but then I figured it all out. So yeah, so I came out here to do all that stuff. But in doing that, I still needed a paying job. So I've always had editing as kind of my bread and butter, as it were. So still is.
So it wasn't a transition, it was kind of something you did simultaneously for a while.
Yeah, because I had a job where I could go out on auditions. The guy was really cool. So I went out, still got the ability to do that, and I did book my one and only film. So it's one and done, but I've talked about it before. Steel Frontier. It's right up there. So it's like a Mad Max type post-apocalyptic movie. It's got Kane Hodder in it, aka Jason Voorhees, and Bo Svensson for all you Walking Tall fans. So yeah, and Brian James from Blade Runner. So we had a pretty cool cast, and yeah, it was fun.
So one feature film as an actor, but what about editing?
I mean, I've done everything as an editor. I've done documentaries, feature films, promos, trailers, like actors demo. When I first came out, actors demos were one of the first things I was cutting. So I got to meet a lot of cool actors that I admired. And in fact, I did a trailer that's in, let's see, is it right here? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna grab this for you. So in the DVD section is this 30th anniversary of Night of the Living Dead. So the trailer that's on here, because they got like new footage, they shot new footage of that actor. It's not integrated very well at all. Like the guy's like 30 years older, right? Than the movie. And they're like, oh, he looks just like he did back in the day. I'm like, who's the old guy? It's like, oh no, that's the guy.
don't.
Like, he does not look the same. And you can tell when the new footage is in, but you know, it's a public domain thing. Someone bought the rights to put stuff in it. And so the trailer I made was to also showcase that it has a new remastered picture. And so what I did is I basically digitized, you know, we were using digital, you know, that's when the Avid was coming around. And I digitized a VHS. So I had the really bad, grainy, blurry footage of something that's what you would rent. And then I had their footage, and I did this cool wipe so you could really see the difference between the VHS and that. So that trailer is on here. And now I do a lot of casting. So I've done every cooking show you can get, Master Chef, Top Chef, all these chef shows, game shows, done a ton of game shows, Password, you know, Match Game, Hustler, if you watch that with Craig Ferguson, that's awesome. So do a lot of that stuff now.
As an editor, we know that a role can be guided, you know, that role as an editor can guide or influence a film or short film, whatever the case may be. Like I always like to say, it's not a Martin Scorsese movie, it's a Scorsese Schoonmaker movie, because he works with film and Schoonmaker so much that she has as much influence on the outcome of the movie as he does directing it. Do you believe that your edits affect the emotion or influence, like in this case with the game shows, the contestants, like on their casting for the videos that you make for them?
Oh yeah, I mean, editing, the thing, especially when I was doing film, I've also directed a feature film, so that's on Amazon Prime right now. It's called Shot to the Heart. So if you guys want to see it, it's not a movie you would think I would make, but my friend wrote it. It's a really dark, you know, gritty drama, but he hired me for that because one, I was an actor, so he knew I could direct performance, and then as an editor, I could tell if we have everything, because in my brain as I'm shooting, I'm like, literally, I take 10 seconds, I go, wait, we're missing one more shot. Like I'll know in my head. It's like a puzzle, and it works like that in your head if you've got everything you need. And one day I just realized that I got everything inside with these actors. I realized I just didn't have an exterior of the house at night. And I was like, oh, I forgot something. You know, I was like, just like that. And luckily the crew was sort of winding down, but you know, all they just threw up the sticks. You know, it was dark out, turned the porch light on so it looked like a nice, and then we got it. So but yeah, so that's one aspect is like a puzzle. You got to make sure you got all your pieces. But then when you're putting it together, absolutely, the editing, the duration you put between people makes it a little more dramatic. If it's tighter, it picks the pace up. So it's things like that that you can literally alter performance. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, people can win Oscars because their performance was edited that well. And I'm not kidding about that. So sometimes I'm like, you know, why are editors a below the line person? Like when people say, oh, it's, you know, director, producer, cinematographer, and like maybe the musician. I'm like, well, where the hell's the editor? Literally, you can go shoot pretty pictures, you can act your ass off, and you can direct the hell out of it. But if it's not cut together, you're the fourth person in that thing. And if it's not cut together well, the audience won't know why it's lagging or dragging or something's wrong. It's because of the editing. So if you've got great editing and you don't notice the editing, that means the editing is great on that film. Like Scorsese, the reason he keeps her around is because she knows pace, she knows performance. So yeah.
And
so
she has a great idea of what his pacing is mentally. Like, you know, he uses music a lot, so she knows the pacing of his music and how to cut to it. I think that's such an important element in filmmaking, is pacing. Yeah,
I agree. Like, and you know, everyone probably knows the story now about Marcia Lucas editing Star Wars. Like that thing, you know, when you look at all that opening footage that George was going to start with, and all, I mean, it was not nearly the banger of an opening that's there now. Like it starts with the attack and the ship, and you're like, your eyes are out of your head. And that was, and that was just her trimming the fat. She's like, no, you can just cut to the chase, you know? So that's where, you know, you got your gold ticket, and she won the Academy Award for that. So there you go.
switching from Star Wars to the other big franchise, Star Trek.
Yeah.
You're a big Star Trek fan. Did you watch the original series on TV as a kid?
Oh yeah, yeah. Growing up, like that was an afternoon staple. I just love Star Trek. For me, it was just the characters are fantastic. They were so unique and specific, and yes, you could say they were kind of stereotypes. Whatever. I mean, in a weird way, they were ethnic, and I'm not gonna say ethnic stereotypes, but he unstereotypically put different ethnicities on the bridge of this ship that don't normally go together in the 60s. Just like a Russian, a black woman, an Asian at the helm, and all these, Scotsmen, fixing the ship. Like no one did anything like that. And as a kid, for me, it was just awesome seeing a whole bunch of different great characters on screen. Because when you're younger, this is why I always say, I get so sad about things that people bring up racism and prejudice and all that, because I think adults breathe that into the young. Because my daughter comes home from school and she has a sleepover, and it's like a rainbow in my house. I've got like people, all different ethnicities in here, and I just love it. It's the Star Trek guy in me. I'm like, see, look, like they don't see anything. They just see she's my friend. We get along. I'm like, yes. Why does that leave people? And Roddenberry was like, it shouldn't leave people. It should be, here they are, and here's what can be. Right.
Yeah. So if this is supposed to be a united federation, there should be major diversity going on within this federation of people, even if they're on one ship.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then of course, just the adventure of it and the beaming down in the ship and the phasers, like even that, as the kid in me loved that.
So I saw you picked up your two favorite Star Trek movies the other day from the original series. Impossible task, I'm sure, but I think you're up to it. Can you rank the 6 TOS movies?
So Star Trek 2 and 6 are my favorites, and I always lean towards 6, and I always said for the reason of Christopher Plummer is the villain, right? Chang with the eye patch bolted to his head like a badass. It's so great. And he gets to act in the scene with Shatner, and those two guys, they did stage together like early on, and so it was so great just watching them do their thing. Whereas Montalban, who I love more, like as Khan, they never found a way to put Shatner and Montalban in the same room and to act off each other. Because if you go back and watch Space Seed, man, that is Montalban is so good. Yes, and the interaction with Shatner, I mean, he's so good. And so I feel like that was the one element I was missing. So I'd always rank 6, just a bit higher. But then when I bought them on 4K and I literally watched them back to back, Star Trek 2 was it was better. It was better. It just like, even though they're on the view screen, they bring it on the view screen. Like they give it all they got coming out of that view screen. And it looked great. Oh my God. The 4K transfer looked fantastic in 2. And I didn't feel like 6 was popping off the screen as well. It felt like just a nice Blu-ray. Like I felt like if I put that in side by side, I wouldn't tell. But Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan looks great, and I gotta re-rank it and put that as number 1, then 6, then 4, because 4 is very funny. That was the one that got non-Star Trek fans going to the theater, and it was the most profitable one of the original crew. Because Captain, that'll be whales. That's a great movie.
Is that the one with "Hello, Computer"?
Yeah, computer. Hello. And the guy's like, hey, yeah. I mean, like,
I love that one.
That was so good. And Spock, like mind melding with the whale. It took all the tropes of Trek and just really bent it a little bit to, I think, a really effective way. I like Star Trek 3. A lot of people hate on that one, but I think there's a lot of fun in Star Trek 3. I mean, you got like, Christopher Lloyd playing a Klingon, which is fun. And then I would go probably the motion picture and then number 5. 5.
I'm going to have fun editing this together because I'm not going to want to cut anything out.
Nice.
But, like we were talking off camera, to me, once again, editing is where the magic happens to me. So it's like people like, why not just do a live stream for your conversations? I'm like, well, sometimes people say something and then they want to say it a different way, or they just want a break or whatever the case may be. I might have to take my dogs out.
Mhm.
And the whole thing is I I could do the conversation, then come back to it and then edit it later. And I like to put in screenshots and put a little Ken Burns action on it and all that good stuff.
Nice.
And once again, to me, that's like where the magic happens.
Yeah, I got to agree with you on that because I think that's the problem I have is being an
Mhm.
editor. I can't not edit my stuff. Like I so admire the people that just turn on the camera, say their thing, and then turn off the camera. I'm like, wow, they didn't do any editing, and their channels are great. I love those, but it's like
Mhm.
I can't I feel like I need to roll in some nice like when I do the box office breakdown, I wanted to have a nice marquee next to me and put the posters inside the marquee and flip them
Mhm.
when I change.
Graphics.
Just yeah, I that's just how my brain works because that's how what I've been doing since like the late 80s. So it's hard to do less than that. So to my detriment because it takes longer, as you know,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
edit, but you do get to spice them up by doing
Yeah.
that.
And I'm sure you'll agree with this. Sometimes you could get lost in editing. Like I was talking to Durant Cinema, and he enjoys the editing. He said it's like a love hate kind of thing because you love to do it once you're in the groove, but you hate to be like, ugh, I gotta edit that video.
Yeah, I'll tell you the ones that are the most daunting. If you go back and they're not ones that ever get viewed a lot, which is kind of sad on my part. But when I go out and I do the tours of exhibits and conventions, those are monsters. Like if you look at my James Bond exhibit or the Star Trek exhibit or the Comic Con, I mean, I shoot a lot of footage for those things.
Oh
And
yeah.
so when I come back to cut those, that's like a week long thing. Like I'll edit a little, come back to it, edit. And the Oscars, my wife and daughter took me to the Oscar experience here
Mm-hmm.
for Father's Day. And I ran into, speaking of Robert Meyer Burnett, I ran into Mark A. Altman, who I love just as much. That guy was great. And he was there. And that was a love edit, because I love the Academy. I love going there and seeing all the things about motion pictures. And so I put it out there. And at the very least, I always say, well, if I want to relive it, I'll go watch my own video. And hopefully, if others are interested in it, they'll go look at it too. Maybe they can't come to California, and this is their
Right.
only way to see that Bond exhibit or that Academy Awards exhibit.
Yeah,
And
I have to tell you, that is one of my favorite videos of yours. The Father's Day gift going to the Academy. I know personally, check your views. I'm probably accountable for at least 10% of them.
yay,
I've wanted to go there ever since I first heard about it when they announced it. It was during one of the Academy Award ceremonies, and they
right?
just, had the promotional things of how they wanted to look and everything like that. And now I hear they do like movie premieres there, like they did Ambulance and last night in Soho, Nightmare Alley. How great was that experience?
It was the perfect like I was gushing, when they said, "Oh, how about we take you there for Father's Day?" I'm like, I like, don't get me anything else. That is all I need. All I need is to go there and geek out. And the thing about it is when you go to shoot a video though, you're doing two things. You're enjoying it, but you're also making a video. So
Mm-hmm.
if I go back, I'm not going to shoot anything. I'm not going to make a backup or a second one because that'll be the time where I just want to stand and absorb and just be in the moment. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like for a movie lover like me, that couldn't have been a better thing. Maybe I'll just tell them each year, take me back. That'll be my Father's Day thing. And that'll give it because those things stay there a while before they turn over. So yeah.
Yeah. I got one more question for you before we do the five takes. If you've
Huh.
watched any of my conversations, you know what the five takes are at the end. But finally, I want to ask you, what's your favorite piece of movie memorabilia in your collection?
Yeah, I guess that'll be pretty good. I'll send you a photo, but I think my favorite piece has to be my autographed Rocky poster by Stallone. That was a great when I heard he was at Bally's one day, the gym, he was like um, advertising or promoting some of his health stuff. And of course, everybody was just there to see Stallone. No one was buying the stuff. I mean, I love Stallone. You know, he's one of my absolute favorite. You know, if I go top 5 actors, I mean, you're not going to not hear Stallone in that list. Is that like a double negative? You're not going to not hear Stallone. Anyway, Stallone will be in that list, is what I'm getting.
You're going to hear
him. Yeah. And yeah, and so people were having him sign like DVD covers, which I had one of because I didn't know there was a limit. And the guy, I just sort of threw the cover down, but you know, I had this poster tube on my back like a sword, and I'm like, you know, pulling it off like Lancelot. And as I'm getting it, this big dude goes, only one item. And I'm like, hold on. I go, wait, then don't sign that. Like, don't sign that, please. And like, I took the poster out, and he had already started signing the thing. And when I unrolled it, it's like an original Rocky poster, and the shot from that poster is him and Adrian walking away. Like that's an ending to the movie that was taken out and re-edited. Talking about edit it. So the original thing was he and Adrian were just leaving the ring while Apollo Creed wins, and they just sort of silently walk away. And so that shot is them on this poster. And when he saw that, he kind of pushed the bodyguard out of the way, laid the poster down, and a big old fat Stallone signature. I'm like,
that's awesome.
And so it is just hung in my office ever since, just as inspiration, as memorabilia, and it just feels good having a Rocky Stallone thing right here. So that I mean, without thinking, that has to be my favorite.
Yeah, I know John from Plot X2 would love to have that poster and that memory too, I have to say. All right. Ready to do the 5 takes?
I reckon. Let's see.
Okay. Number 1, name the film that made you fall in love with the movies.
Ooh. I mean, I'll just have to say Star Wars, although Superman the movie came out right after, so it's kind of like a 1-2 punch for me. Like the reason Star Wars was so great, this is before all the hype. You have to remember, when you put yourself back in the time, there was no Star Wars, nothing like it, nothing ever existed. The biggest sci-fi thing was 2001, which is not one of my favorite movies, as people know by now, at all. Like, I get that it has its place, but in my opinion, Star Wars has way more influence on not just science fiction, but filmmaking than 2001 ever did. So, and then as a kid, just seeing that, there was an intermission, KB, in my movie. When I saw that, like, curtains were closing, I was like, oh, no, like,
there's got to be more.
I went to the bathroom, but I knew it was like, go to the bathroom, get some more popcorn, come back in, just ready to go. So, and they had lobby cards, which you don't see anymore. Nowadays, you see, I think the new version of that is just these massive standees. You just see these giant standees. That's the thing now. You don't see lobby cards. And so those were on the wall, and you got to, like, going in, you got to see these images from Star Wars before you even went into the thing. It's like these droids and this Wookiee and this ship. I'm like, eyeballs falling out. And it just delivered. Like, when it left, I didn't know what to say. I got home and I wouldn't just stop talking to my mom. I'm like, oh my God, sorry, you got to see this movie called Star Wars. And then because of that, for my birthday, like, I didn't even know toys were out. Like, suddenly for my birthday, I got all of these Star Wars figures and an X-Wing, and I was like, oh my God, they have toys? I don't know, like, I didn't know, like, I didn't watch. And so
this is the second time this week we're talking about Kenner toys with Star Wars.
But that's true. Like, and so all that happened. And so my passion for that movie, and it created the toy love, and then I couldn't wait for the next movie. And then Superman the movie came out in 78, Christmas 78. Chris Reeve, man, by picking a guy like Chris Reeve, who is an unknown, you could look at him and go, oh my God, that's Superman. As opposed to casting a known actor to go, oh, there's Steve McQueen, there's Paul Newman, or whatever celebrity they were trying to cast in that. So that made me believe a man could fly. And then I just, it made my hero come off the screen and just blow me away. So those two films kind of back to back just cemented, like, oh my God, movies are it for me.
I saw Superman the movie in 78, but I didn't see Star Wars until it was re-released. And I think it was re-released in 79, right before Empire came out.
Correct.
So
were you as blown away?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. That started look at the shirt.
Nice. And wait,
This,
it goes down. Does that say Revenge of the Jedi?
yes, it does. Yes, it does. It says
See? I know what you
Revenge
got.
of the Jedi. For those
That's
that know, not Return, Revenge. That was the teaser poster. Love it. Number 2, name 5 of your favorite films. Not the 5. There is no such thing. It changes tomorrow. Just 5 of them.
right. Rattling them off, definitely go with Rocky because not just the film, but everything around it, how it was made. Love that. Back to the Future. It's one of my feel-good movies. You know, put something in, feel good. That's that. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Just love Raiders of the Lost Ark. It just puts me in a it's just so good. It's like great filmmaking, top to bottom. Even people say, "Oh, but nothing he does matters." I'm like, whatever. That's like a new conversation that started in the last 15 years. You know,
Revisionist.
Yeah. That's 3. Let's go with probably like Empire Strikes Back. Like I know Star Wars, but I'm going to throw Empire in there because we've talked about Star Wars. So Empire, because that was just like probably the greatest sequel ever made.
And a totally different story.
Yeah, totally different story. Didn't rehash it, and it leaves with a cliffhanger. So like so many things to like go wrong, did not. And then let's just see, a crazy guilty pleasure is Big Trouble in Little China.
I just got the shout select of that last year because I was like, I need this movie because it was such a nostalgic thing. I talk all the time about the VHS bootleg tapes that I had as a teenager. I would just come home from school and throw in one of those tapes. It could be Creepshow 2, Evil Dead 2, Big Trouble Little China, Rumble in the Bronx.
Love Rumble
my gosh.
That is so good.
And you had this collection of VHS tapes and, you know, even Honeymooners, the 39 episodes. All these nostalgic movies coming out in this beautiful Blu-ray and 4K format. I just love it. Love it. Talking about loving, let's name number 3, name a classic movie that everybody loves, but the Huckster can't stand.
Well, I'm just going to bounce right back to what I was saying a second ago.
2001.
2001: Space Odyssey. That is, I mean, there's a lot of love for that movie, and it's not in this house.
Let's flip that. Number 4, name a critically hated movie that the Huckster loves.
So this is something I may have to revisit this film, but this is a film I know I liked. I'm not gonna say I loved it. It is massively hated, but I liked it. And that was Staying Alive with Travolta, directed by Stallone, baby. I guess that's more of like almost a guilty pleasure than like like a movie that I love. But I remember, look, back in the day, like anything Stallone put his hand on, I was all in for. And I like music, I like dancing, I like Travolta because Grease is, you know, hands down my favorite musical of all time. So I think if you get sort of caught in some of your trappings of liking those things, that the movie's okay for you. And Cynthia Nixon was, Cynthia Rhodes, Cynthia Rhodes was in that. And like, she was kind of this little darling in the 80s at the time. She was in a whole bunch of stuff.
Can you take a guess of what the Rotten Tomatoes score is?
It's 0.
It's 0.
It's as low as it gets. I did Tim Talks Talkies. We all tried to pick things that were like not that were rotten. Liked, and that was my last pick. I'm like, look, you could hear crickets chirping, KB. Like I threw that, and there was silence. And then, you guys can make noise. You can laugh at me. You can like say something because I know it's a bad movie, but.
Love it. I love it. And finally, number 5, who would you like to see me have a conversation with on this channel?
I would love to see, I don't think you've had it yet, but Mega Mike the Movie Man. Have you done Mega
Booty Mike?
Have you done Mega Mike?
Mega Mike the Booty Man. Oh my gosh, you've seen the Bob's Blu-ray live stream with him and Convicted Cinephile and Terrell. Classic.
Out of control.
Classic. Oh my god, that entire night was just ridiculous. I love it. I love it. This is the second recommendation for Mega Mike. I will get in contact with him and see if he's up to having a conversation with me. I think it'll be a great time.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's super passionate about movies, and I love he's always got his blockbuster stuff on. So there's like some sort of blockbuster love you're gonna have to get into
Mm-hmm.
in that
Mm-hmm.
conversation.
That's awesome. I will definitely look into that. And that's it. That's how we do it, man.
Nice.
What you think?
Oh, it's great, man. I love talking about this stuff. I appreciate you picking the old brain and coming up with stuff. To everyone,
That's half the
offended
fun
for
for
staying
me.
alive. I apologize now, but
That's half the fun is like coming up with these unique questions. I don't want to ask the same questions over and over. That's why I just have the 5 takes at the end. That way there's some commonality. But besides that, I want to appeal to the individual, and everybody has different things that I want to inquire about. So I just do it this way.
I love this format, KB. It's really good because you get to know the person in the front 2/3, and then you get this
Hmm.
fun little 5 at the end. So
Yeah.
keep it
Well,
up, man.
thank you. Thanks again for joining me today.
You're welcome, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.